Um, at Let's Go, we've got an incredibly powerful tool called the Let's Go Pulse Check. And what it is it's a team psychometric that looks at the underlying dynamics of any team. And then in a facilitated conversation, we ask, what is it that we could do to practically make this team stronger, to shift it in a positive direction? And what I want to do, and this video is for, is I want to make an offer that we want to offer some teams a free pulse check, that is a free data report and a free facilitated conversation with your team in exchange for our use of the recording of the video. And this is because the tool has been incredibly powerful and useful, and we've used it with, film production teams making some of your favorite shows, with the executive team of a European airline, and with teams of every sort from, finance teams, whole companies or regions, small teams, big teams, like teams of 5, teams of 35. So we know that it works really well. And now what we're doing is we're beginning to accredit facilitators, either from internal HR teams or external facilitators, in using the Let's Go Pulse Check so that they can get rich data on teams, put all the conversations on the table, and have powerful conversations about how do we strengthen the team. But as part of that, I just want to get hold of some recordings of facilitated sessions that we can use in that. And we also want to get hold of some public facing testimonials. And so what I want to do here is briefly explain to you, show you what the pulse check is, and just lay out the application for this, and because we want to do a handful, and so I thought I'd just put it on LinkedIn and see what comes back. So let me show you what the pulse check is for those of you who don't know. It's a series of it's rooted in the Let's Go model, which is the model we work with at Let's Go for teams. A good team has belief, has the right structure, has good involvement in the team, has progress or shows progress, and has care, that is warm relationships or is in it together. And basically teams succeed or fail on these dynamics, and that's the core of a load of our work here. But the pulse check, what the pulse check does is digs a little under the surface and asks, you'll see the same colors, but these very specific questions. So in this team, our purpose is motivating, scores much higher than we don't avoid challenging conversations. So what the pulse check does is it really digs into the detail, and you get to see, well, okay, where do we really agree and where are we really aligned? Right here, they broadly agree that around we collectively commit to our decisions, whereas actually we don't avoid challenging conversations. There's a real spread of responses. So it's a team psychometric, so it's looking at the team, looking at where you are right now. What does the underlying data say versus what's your self-perception? What needs attention, versus what's strong, and what are some of the individual perspectives in the team? How are people feeling about being in this team? And what's the way forward? So there's a kind of data report that's at the heart of the pulse check, but really what it's for, the data isn't to tell you you're like this or like that. The data is to then open up a rich conversation with all the team present about, okay, if this is our data, what does that mean? Why have we scored ourselves like that? And what would it take to move us forwards? And so in this 90-minute facilitated conversation, you can move just from first observing the data, beginning to make sense of it, and getting to a list of really tangible outcomes, like things that you'll do differently. So, for example, I've seen teams come out with a commitment to having lunch together because they saw some weaknesses in care, or maybe they don't feel so connected to the bigger picture, so they reorganize their monthly team meeting. Or they decide to try a new tool for staying in touch because they're missing certain kinds of conversation. Now, this has been incredibly useful for teams who are doing a bit of a reset after lockdown and after working remotely. But it also works with face-to-face teams, and it works, as I think I said before, with teams in any situation, because it's looking at the dynamics of the team, not looking at the tasks of the team. So what we would love to do is to offer you a free pulse check, and that includes everyone would fill in the survey everyone in the team would fill in the survey. We would then have a 90-minute conversation we would generate the report for you, and then have a 90-minute conversation with the whole team present about the data, about what it means, and about what we can do about it. And you would leave with a list of tangible actions that you've agreed, that are things that feel realistic, that you could all do, that would move the team forward, that would make it a bit stronger. You kind of leave with both this really practical stuff, but also the practice of having conversations about the team dynamics. And it tends to be a really enlivening and enriching conversation, even if the results show some areas of real weakness, because it all puts it on the table, and then you can have a realistic engagement with it. So you get all of that, and what do I get? Or what do we get at Let's Go? We get a recording of the session that we can use in training. We get testimonials that we'll record at the end of the session that we can use publicly facing. Yeah, that's all we want. And so you can apply using the survey that I've attached to this post. We want to be doing a handful of these fairly quickly. So if you're in a team that could do with a conversation like this, and you're in a place to allow us to use the recording, then do apply. If you're just intrigued by the pulse check and you want to run one, get in touch. Or if you want to be a facilitator of the pulse check, get in touch, because we're building some open facilitation training later this year. That's about it. Thank you very much.